Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I have been basically like just chilling the last couple weeks. I'm like going through a very interesting phase of frustration about my current position in the universe right now. So I've been taking my time just trying to work through those feelings before I went on here. And I also had planned a video and it was very much mediocre, and I felt like if I was gonna talk about it, so if I'm gonna talk about something, I'm gonna like do it right, you know what I'm saying? Um, so yeah, that's what's going on. Today we're going to be talking about BPD, aka borderline personality disorder. I do probably will be looking down a lot. I have notes just to kind of help me guide through, make sure we're not coming off track. And I really want to be able to flow through this video easily. Like I don't want to have to edit so much. So we'll see how that goes. But let's just kind of dive in. So as I mentioned, BPD is short for borderline personality disorder. It is not bipolar disorder. I know people tend to get those confused. It's borderline personality disorder. And so this mental illness really, it impacts our ability to manage emotions like appropriately, I guess. I was diagnosed in 2020, and so of course I had suspicions, of having a mental illness as a child, but I wasn't diagnosed until 2020. So I was 22 or 23 years old. And I think that it was good that we waited that long, and that people weren't automatically trying to put me in that category when I was younger, just because teenagers have all that angst. There's so many emotions going on. There's so many hormones. It's really not accurate to be able to judge most mental illnesses, I think, in a child, just because there are so many other things that it could be. These illnesses share symptoms with other things, so it's hard to really pinpoint, you know what I mean? But borderline personality disorder does have 9 symptoms. You only have to have 7 to be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And I think I have 7, if not 8 or 9. But we'll get started. So the first symptom I want to talk about is fear of abandonment. Guys, this is a really big one. It kind of sets the tone for literally my entire experience with BPD. And it's really this intense fear that you're basically going to be left. Do you know what I mean? And that can come and stem from a childhood memory that happened. Perhaps maybe you might have been, left. I know that for me, it's possible that had happened in my earlier days. I don't remember anything before the age of 6. So I'm sure that something around that time happened. Yeah, okay, I think I said that. But for me, it's like, when I feel like I'm going to be abandoned, I either shut down or I completely open myself up to somebody, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, and it shows up in me as maybe like splitting, and what splitting means is just a term for more black and white thinking. Like, it's either all good or it's all bad. And so for me, this shows up a lot in my relationships. So that whole concept of leave before you get left, right? Or fear of abandonment. You're now pestering them with like questions like, are you good? Do you still love me? Do you still want to be around me? Do you still want to be with me? Needing that constant reassurance can be really exhausting. And so that's why I mentioned in my other video, external validation. It's super important to not rely on that for your healing journey. Again, it's not the move. But in another way that fear of abandonment, I don't know that it's fear of abandonment. I actually think I'm going to save this next one for a different symptom. But when I feel like I'm going to be left hanging, I have a hard time accurately assessing the situation and assessing the individual and knowing how I need to react emotionally. Like for me, I've always reacted very strongly to certain things that might not seem like a big deal to somebody else. I will react intensely. I remember when I got waitlisted for UGA, I literally locked myself in the bathroom and had a mental breakdown. I was screaming, I was crying. I had to call my dad. I was at my high school boyfriend's house at the time. Like, I was so distraught. I remember when I failed my driving test the first time. I was like, I'm never driving again. I literally I don't even know why I tried. Like, this is always what happens. Like, oh, I'm a failure type shit. You know what I'm saying? So it is, again, either all good or all bad, and it does show up in my work too. And that's why I have to be really, really careful and conscious about what I'm saying to people, because I'm nice and cooperative until you do something to make me upset or change my mood negatively in any way. Like, we could be on the phone and I'll be like, hi, how can I help you? Super, super polite. And then they might say something like, oh, well, something silly, like, oh, well, I actually need to reschedule for today. And that might like make me upset. And then I'll be like cold and like not wanting to talk to them. That's why I had to get up out the reception and situation, like in person, like, no. Because there would be times where like, I remember it was so annoying when the customers, we did curbside and I was reception. And so of course you have a sign that says, call this number when you're ready, like when you're outside, and we will let you know like to come in or not. And so many people would come up to the door and pull the door, and it would be locked because read the sign. And that would make me so upset. Like, they could have been fine 2 minutes ago, and now I have to unlock the door for them, and now I have an attitude. And now I don't really give a fuck what at all. So that's fear of abandonment and how that shows up in me. The next symptom we'll talk about is unstable relationships. This is a really big one for me too. My relationships have always been very intense. They've always been quick, and it's always been like just super unstable, like not in my life for a super long period of time. At least that's how it was in 2020, really bad. And then after my assault up until 2020 or 2021, I was racking up bodies, you know what I'm saying? So I was just, being a little like reckless, and then majority of my relationships did not have like a foundation, if you know what I mean. Like, it was all just surface level, and so especially with people of the opposite sex, with guys, things would always happen so quickly, and I would always like fall too quickly and then give them too much of myself too quickly. You know what I'm saying? And that has a lot to do with the belief that you need somebody else to make you whole. And once you find what you're looking for, you don't want to let that go. And so that's how it becomes really intense. And then you get to the point where you're like, oh my God, if you break up with me, I'm going to kill myself. And it's not, and of course that's like awful to say and not okay. But that's where it kind of comes in. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, everything with BPD, we feel everything so much more intensely. Like, it's a million times more than you would feel. Like, it's so intense, like, and it's just a lot. So that's the second symptom. The third one's going to be self-image. Again, guys, super, super important in me. I've had self-image issues since I was little. Like, I feel like I came out the womb hating myself, like, so that's like something that is an obvious thing for me. And of course, you guys have heard how that's shown up for me in my journey, so I won't really go over that one too much. But the next one, our fourth symptom, is impulsivity and impulsive behavior, self-destructive behavior. You guys, this is literally me to a T. I was having relationships with a bunch of different people. Like I said, I was having threesomes and not necessarily being safe about it either. Meeting people online and showing up to their house, like, just to hook up, like, and not tell anyone where you're at, like, or I would tell somebody, but not like anyone important. Like, it's crazy. Like, I was doing all kinds of other supplemental drugs of some things. Like I said, threesomes, being really risky, not using protection, all kinds of stuff like that, because I just didn't care. Like, you get to the point where you don't, that's that whole self-image thing, right? Like, you don't care what happens? You don't care how you look, you don't care what happens to you. And so I was also really, really, really impulsive with money. A lot of you guys don't know, but I did have a really big lump sum of money in my early 20s, and I blew through it partially because I was giving my bad ex, my assailant, all my money, paying for everything, but also just even after that, it showed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was always very much for that instant gratification. And so impulsively, I would always spend money. I'll buy it right now, because if I don't get it now, I'll never be able to get it again. So I've had to really work on being good with money and being cognizant of what I'm spending my money on, because before recently, my account was always in the negative. So always. So it's nice to not be for once, but that's the fourth thing. The fifth symptom is going to be self-harm. Again, I've already talked to y'all about this. I used to self-harm starting in 7th grade, and then I've had, my 3 attempts as well. And then for a while, I was not eating right. I was starving myself. Eating disorders, or keeping yourself from eating enough food, or eating too much food, is also self-harm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not healthy. That's also kind of self-explanatory, so I've got that one down as well. The 6th symptom is going to be extreme emotional mood swings. And guys, again, another really intense symptom for me. I remember when I was in group therapy in 2020, and I would be driving from medical center to like Pearland for group therapy, and I would go through like a million different emotions during that like 40-minute drive. It would be so crazy. I would feel depressed when I woke up, and then I would feel like happy when I got in the car, and I'd be like, oh, I'm so fine. And then 2 seconds later, I could be like, God, I don't even know why the fuck you thought that. Like, what's wrong with you? So it's like one moment I'm happy and I'm good, and then something can happen in a minute of seconds to even minutes to seconds that will change my mood in a completely different way. Like, I remember like having sleepovers when I was younger, like going to houses. I would always have this like shift, like, oh, I'm really happy to be here, da, 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 da. And then I would just shut down, and I just wouldn't talk to anybody, and I would just be like, I can't wait to go home. And I know that seems like maybe something that people have in common, but it's really, it really is a really intense symptom. Like I said, and anger isn't also an intense symptom. Not necessarily for me, but my partner does have BPD, and his symptom of anger is a lot bigger than mine. So those extreme emotional mood swings can really take a toll on your relationships. Like I said, keeping stable relationships is hard for someone who has BPD, or who suffers with BPD. So it's again intense, quick, fast, and unpredictable and unstable. That's essentially what it all feels like. I felt like I had no control over anything in my life, literally at all, except for food, which is why I chose to withhold that from myself. The 7th symptom is feeling empty and feeling like you're nobody and you're worth nothing. And I can't tell you how many times I felt that way. I almost want to say that I constantly feel that way, but not necessarily. It's almost like saying I want to, leave, right? I want to like not be here anymore. That feeling is always present, of me not necessarily wanting to be here. I am not always wanting to, go away and leave permanently, but the feeling of, oh my gosh, I can't wait till all of this is over is a constant for me. My life it's been very intense, like I have mentioned, and so, that feeling of not existential dread, but I definitely remember feeling like I was only partially here. Like, I felt like I didn't deserve the best. I felt like, if I did something wrong, like I should self-harm, like I should punish myself. So, and so filling myself with external validation, like I said. So the threesomes, and then of course, like the new drugs that I was taking, and just willing to try almost literally everything and anything. And I wasn't afraid to do anything, and that is dangerous. Um, the eighth symptom is explosive anger. Like I mentioned, I don't have this as much as my partner does, but it does come from a place of pain and from a place of hurt. You know, it goes, you feel misunderstood, and so then you feel like you have to defend yourself because you feel like you're being attacked, or you feel like what your partner is saying is saying it to hurt you, or they don't care about you, etc. That's a lot of this stuff that we've discussed, but that's again not a symptom that I have, but definitely a big one for a lot of people with BPD. And then I'm sorry, y'all, my cat is tweaking. He's going through it. He's like half feral, so please. And then the last symptom I have here is being out of touch with reality. And this is a really, really, really big one for me. I dissociate all the time. I dissociated when I was a kid. I think I would spend like 90% of my time in my head, making up stories and about who I was and basing them off of what I thought society wanted. So I would daydream about being some white girl with long hair who was like, I don't know, like abused or something by her old man, and she finally meets a guy who loves her and will take care of her, like stupid shit like that. Like I would imagine that I'm like Vanessa Hudgens and my man is Zac Efron, like what? So that was a big part of my childhood, daydreaming and coming up with those stories to get out of my own reality. And a lot of times I feel kind of like my soul and my body aren't one. It's like I feel like my soul is like coming out of my eyes. I am looking at my hands. Like I don't feel like that. That's a lot for me. Like I don't feel like real. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like disconnected from this plane sometimes, and just sometimes I feel like it might be the opposite, where I'm hyper aware of where I am and what I'm doing, and being in this body in the moment. I mean, it's intense having to redirect your thoughts every time, all the time. But those are the 9 symptoms. And I will say that, like, as far as getting help, medication is like, I don't know, like half of it, and then the other half is definitely therapy. It's taken me a long time to get on the meds that I'm on now, and I've had to kind of play with it, which is super frustrating because I don't want to play with my brain, but I guess I have to in order to see what works for me, you know? So I've been on lots of medications, and I've just now gotten a cocktail where it all works out for me. I have anxiety, PTSD, I take a mood stabilizer, and an antidepressant. And so the meds have been super helpful as far as keeping my moods and emotions stable. What is going to change my behavior and the way that I think is going to be DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. And that is more so focused on like how you view things and changing the way that you think, as opposed to like changing what you do. I hope that makes sense. But the only way to really do better and to be better is to be self-aware. So recognize your traits, your toxic traits. I have a lot of toxic traits, and I have been working on making sure that those traits are no more, like that I don't want to be that person. And so I've had to put a lot of time and energy into changing my entire belief system about myself and changing everything that I've built up until this point. And it's a lot. I will say that, you know, as far as group therapy, that didn't really help me too much, just because it felt more like babysitting. You know, it was there from like 9 to 2. And so I felt like, you know, we didn't really do anything. We just kind of shared our stories and then like ate and kind of like talked, but it wasn't super structured. And so I again felt like it was more like a babysitting job, someplace where we could be, where they know where we are and we know that we're not hurting ourselves. But something else that also really didn't help was insurance, you know, health insurance. Back in the day when I was coming out of high school, going into my first year of college, and basically until like, I don't know, the last 2 years, I did not have very good health insurance, and I didn't have any money because I had blown through it and gave a lot to my assailant. And so that was also an obstacle that I had to overcome. And so it's really frustrating when you're ill and you're sick and you don't have access to the resources that you need in order to get better. It's literally so painful. I can't even explain. Like, I would explain my instability with BPD to be so unpredictable and so intense, and it makes you want to just explode. You know, you feel everything so intensely, and then you feel angry and upset with yourself for feeling so intensely, and then it just keeps going and going and going into this like rabbit hole of self-hatred and you know, this other version of yourself just like putting you down constantly. Like, I would explain it as being one of the most painful times of my life, for sure. As it was, like I said, unpredictable, unstable, all these people coming in and out of my life, doing things that weren't good for me as far as being safe, meeting up with strangers, and just not really caring about myself or my body or any of that. I needed something to fill it, to fill that hole that I had in myself, the one that, you know, was created, and then also the hole that was created by my assailant, but then the one that was created by myself also. So that's like a really super quick gist of BPD. I hope it helped a little bit. You know, we have a really big stigma. People with borderline personality tend to have a stigma that we're just awful people and we're mean and we hate everybody and we're manipulative and da 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 da. And while all that may be true, I feel like if that is true and you are toxic, then becoming self-aware and going in the direction to fix that is the best thing that you can do. And it's not, and so I want to say that not all people with BPD are horrible people. You know what I'm saying? We might have done horrible things in our past, said and done horrible things in our past, but that doesn't mean that that's who we are as a person, especially when you see somebody making a conscious effort to change. And so it's really hard to say that, right? Because like, people change and people grow, and should you forgive those who harmed you in the past but are no longer that way? Like, I have a hard time forgiving other people. Like, as far as my assailant, that's like never gonna happen. That's just not something that's for me. But I do want to say that we're not all that bad, and there are some of us who recognize it and are so disgusted with ourselves and fed up with ourselves that we want to change it. And so that's really what it was for me. I was tired of having unstable relationships. I was tired of switching jobs. I was tired of oversharing. I was tired of not being in control of my emotions and my feelings. I was tired of all of it. You know what I'm saying? And I wish I could explain how intense it is. It feels like you're just being suffocated by yourself. Like, you're just pushing yourself underwater. And self-sabotage, that's it. Self-sabotage to the max. Like, you really don't care, do you? And so that's such a hard thing to kind of break out of. And I say kudos to those who are trying currently, who are in the process, and kudos to me too, because damn, it's been hard, and it'll always be a little difficult, you know? But that's what I have for borderline personality disorder. If you guys are interested in more information, I would definitely suggest that you do a quick little Google search and find a really nice, reputable source that you can have info on. Maybe I'll put a link in the bio, maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, so that's what I've got for today. I don't know when my next video will be, whenever I feel like it, probably. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I'm feeling very stuck and frustrated right now with where I am currently in life. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, thanks you guys for listening. Please comment, like, subscribe. It really helps. I would love it if I could grow a little community here, a place where we can kind of hang out and chit chat. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye. And I also wanted to add, like, having BPD and having any type of mental illness is not quirky. It's not fun. It doesn't make you different or, you know, special or any type of way. It sucks. It sucks. And so I think it's really unfair and really making a lot of us look bad when people say, like, oh, I have BPD, I'm so quirky, or like, don't be so quick to claim that though. And I feel like a lot of people who are saying that they do have these mental illnesses are younger people just trying to be a part of something all the time. Like, believe it or not, there are some things that happen to people that you don't want to happen. Like yeah, you think BPD is fun? You think it's fun to not have control over your emotions and therefore have a hard time controlling your actions? Interesting. So yeah, I just had to pop in and say that, and I meant to say it earlier in the video, but I forgot. So here I am saying it now. Okay, bye.